Some places aren't lost to history, they're hidden from it. And for centuries, these incredible stories have been whispered through the Himalayas, stories of a kingdom called Shambhala. Now, this isn't about finding some ancient ruin. It's about understanding an idea. So we're going to go on a different kind of expedition. We're not looking for a spot on a map. We're trying to map the geography of hope itself. Let's dive in. Okay, first things first, we've got to get one thing straight. When you hear mythical place, your mind probably jumps to lost worlds, right? Places like Atlantis or Lyonesse. These are stories about tragedy, about a cataclysm that wiped them out. They're stories of what was. But Shambhala, it's something else entirely. It's a hidden world, and that's a huge difference. It's not about what was lost. It's about what's being kept safe right now. It's a story of what could be, and this is absolutely crucial. Shambhala's disappearance wasn't an accident. It didn't sink into the ocean or get buried by a volcano. No, the whole idea is that it was a strategic withdrawal, a deliberate choice. Think of it like a blueprint for a better future, put into a vault for safekeeping. It's this idea of postponed perfection, a geography of hope, just waiting. All right, so if it's not lost, where is it? That's the big question, right? And what's wild is that the ancient texts are super specific about what it looks like. They describe a real, physical place in amazing detail. But as you're about to see, just because you can describe a place doesn't mean you can put it on a map. I mean, listen to this. The descriptions you find in texts like the Kalachakra Tantra are so vivid you can almost see it. The whole kingdom is shaped like a giant 8-petal lotus. Each petal is a district with millions of villages. Then you've got this ring of impassable snowy mountains protecting it all. And right at the center, the capital, Kalapa. Imagine a palace made of gold, silver, and pearls, ruled by a line of wise kings. And the people, they're all enlightened, living in total harmony, wanting for nothing. It sounds incredible, right? So you've got this perfectly detailed, physical place in your mind, and then you get hit with this. A quote from the 14th Dalai Lama himself. He says Shambhala is not a physical place we can actually find. He calls it a pure land, but one that exists in the human realm. So what gives? How can something be so real, so described in detail, and yet completely unfindable? Well, to even begin to solve that puzzle, we have to look at the mechanics of how it's hidden. This isn't about normal geography. We have to dive into a kind of spiritual technology, a totally different way of understanding what real even means. And the key to understanding all of this is a concept called the Biyul. Biyuls are basically these hidden valleys in Tibetan Buddhism. The story goes that they were blessed way back in the 8th century to be these kinds of spiritual lifeboats, places of refuge that only become accessible in times of major crisis. They're spots on Earth where the line between the physical world and the spiritual world gets, well, really, really blurry. So a place like a Biyul, and Shambhala is like the ultimate Biyul. It's said to exist on multiple layers, all at the same time. You've got the first layer, the visible one. Mountains, rivers, the stuff you could touch. But then there's an inner level, a world of invisible energies. Go deeper, and there's a secret level, where your own consciousness starts to merge with the place itself. And then, finally, if everything aligns, the right person, the right place, the right time, a fourth dimension is revealed, a paradise. It's pretty mind-bending stuff. So what this all means is that the barrier to Shambhala isn't a mountain range, it's your own perception. It's basically a karmic lock. Picture this. 2 people are standing on the exact same spot. One person just sees a frozen, empty wasteland. But the other person? They see a golden city. It's not about geography. It's about karma. You don't need the right map. You need the right mindset. Okay, this all leads to the really big question, though. Why? Why would a culture come up with such an incredibly elaborate idea of a hidden, perfect world? Well, the answer seems to be a very human one. It's about how we cope with the feeling that the world around us is, well, falling apart. The whole Shambhala story is plugged directly into this idea called the Kali Yuga. It comes from Hindu and Buddhist thought, and it's basically the dark age in a huge cosmic cycle. It's the age of arguments, greed, and moral collapse. Sounds familiar, maybe? And Shambhala's whole job, its entire purpose, is to be a sanctuary during this dark age. It's like a spiritual seed vault, keeping wisdom safe and sound while everything outside goes crazy. And this feeling that we're living in the worst of times, it's not new at all. In fact, here's a trip. Psychologists have found that people in pretty much every era have believed that morality was in a nosedive. From ancient Rome to right now, people tend to look back and think things used to be better. It's a documented psychological illusion that we've been carrying around for thousands of years. And this is where the Shambhala myth is so powerful. It totally taps into that feeling, that anxiety that things are going downhill. It says, yeah, you're right, things are a mess. But, and this is the important part, it doesn't just leave you there. It offers a solution, a really hopeful one. It promises that no matter how bad it gets, that blueprint for a better world is safe. It's just waiting. So naturally, this idea of a hidden paradise has inspired people to go looking for it. But that search has really gone into totally different directions, an outer search for a physical place and an inner search for a state of mind. Let's talk about the outer search first, because it has a really wild and kind of weird history. When the legend made its way to the West, it got twisted. People like the occultist Madame Blavatsky sort of mixed it in with Atlantis and other myths. Then you get the really dark stuff, like Nazi expeditions in the 30s looking for it, hoping to find some kind of mystical superweapon or ancestral power. The point is, a lot of these physical searches weren't about enlightenment. They were about power, about control. But then you have the inner search, which is a world away from all that. The tradition talks about an archetype called the Shambhala warrior. And this isn't some soldier going on an expedition. These are people who operate right here, in our world, in a society that feels like it's breaking down. They don't have uniforms or flags. Their weapons aren't swords or guns. They're compassion and this deep understanding that we are all connected. And this gets us to the deepest interpretation of all, that Shambhala isn't a place you find, it's a place you become. It's a powerful metaphor for an inner journey. It's like building a psychological utopia inside yourself, a fortress of calm to protect your mind from all the chaos out there. Some teachings even link it to the heart chakra, the source of bliss within you. It's a state of being, a state of consciousness that's available to literally anyone, anywhere if they do the work. So, after all that, the myth, the paradox, the inner and outer searches, what's the takeaway? What is Shambhala for? What purpose does this story really serve? You know, when you boil it all down, Shambhala is basically a safe deposit box for hope. It's this perfect place that we've imagined to store our best ideas, things like peace, wisdom, real compassion, especially during times when it feels like the world has just forgotten about them. But it's not just sitting there gathering dust. That's the thing. The idea is that this perfection is being held in reserve for a reason. It's been deliberately postponed, waiting for the moment it's needed most. And that makes it so much more than a simple fairy tale utopia. It's not just perfect, it's perfect with a purpose. And that leads us to the most powerful takeaway of all. Shambhala isn't hiding to escape the world. It's not running away from the mess. It's hiding so it can one day save the world. And that, of course, turns the whole story right back on us. If Shambhala is really this hidden potential, this blueprint for a better way of being that's held in reserve, well, it makes you ask a pretty personal question. What parts of ourselves, what ideals or capacity for kindness do we keep hidden away? What are we saving, waiting for a crisis big enough to finally let it out? What's your Shambhala?